Hello guys and welcome back to Mental Health Mondays, or welcome if you're new to my channel. My name is Maddie. It's currently 9 o'clock on a Friday evening and I've sat down to make this video. Today has not been a good day for me anxiety wise, so I thought it would be fitting to do a video on anxiety. So yeah, I've gathered my top 10 tips on combating anxiety. I use them obviously more on days when I feel more overwhelmed, like today. I used to feel like I do today on a daily basis, so I'm very glad in that I've made progress in that sense, but it's just very frustrating. I'm just gonna get into the video and stop talking so much. It's going to be a long one, I feel. I have a lot of knowledge that I want to share with you. So yeah, grab your snacks, grab your drink, and let's tackle anxiety. Okay, so if you've watched my videos for a while, you'll know that I'm diagnosed with BPD, but to be honest, my main problem at the moment is anxiety. Like on a day-to-day basis, anxiety is where it's at. My anxiety has probably been the worst over the past 2 years maybe than it has been ever, and that is due to me moving in into my own flat and leaving like my family home, and I just feel like all these like adult responsibilities just like have brought new anxieties into my life. I basically through therapy managed to whittle my anxieties down to 2 things, and that is predictions of the future, and the second thing is judgment. So I judge myself very harshly and I can never be good enough. So yeah, we're going to be tackling issues to do with that in this video. And the first tip that I have for you, which sounds silly, but it's such a huge thing that I've learned in anxiety recovery, and that is acceptance. I have fought anxiety so long and tried to pretend that it isn't a thing in my life, and then I accepted it was a thing in my life, and then it basically took over my life because that's all I was thinking. Like as soon as I brought attention to it, it got worse. And it's so difficult because I was like, do I suffer in silence and not say anything, or do I admit to it? But then it just kind of took over. I don't know if any of you can relate to that. So kind of just accepting that it's there, accepting that you're gonna have these thoughts. So for me, to put that into practice, basically from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, I have these thoughts or these judgments, these predictions that go on in my head. So when I wake up in the morning, literally, I wake up and I've instantly done something wrong because the time that I've woken up is wrong. I'm usually not feeling refreshed when I wake up. I usually feel tired, and then I start with the predictions and start thinking, oh, now I've woken up late, my day's gonna be shit, and so on and so forth. And that's literally within the first 5 minutes that I'm awake, and it's something that I've really been trying to change and trying to do this whole power of attraction, positive thinking, by basically accepting that these thoughts are there, to not get annoyed at them, because that's the thing, I get annoyed every time I feel like this every morning, and it's like, well, it's not a surprise, Maddie, you feel like this every morning, so like, why are you getting annoyed again? So accept that they're there, and then I then try and replace them with positive thoughts in the hope that that will, you know, make my day go well. So yeah, I think a lot about anxiety is actually doing nothing and just accepting and taking a step back and just letting anxiety be instead of fighting it, because it's almost like you're in quicksand when you have anxiety, and the more you fight it, the worse it gets. So that is tip number 1. Tip number 2, this is what I do every morning, and that is to write down what's on your mind. Well, I do this every morning and night. So I wake up, I have all these thoughts that today's gonna be shit. I write down what's on my mind, and these are usually just really small things that overwhelm me, and that usually helps me to just get it out onto a page. And then after I do that, I do a morning gratitude. So I then try and, you know, positive side of things, try and write down what I am grateful for in my life. And then in the evening, I will write down my evening reflections, which I'm excited to do tonight, because when I've had a really, really anxious day, I really discredit myself for doing things, and it's really good to sit down and say, no, you actually did this, 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 and this. Like, I went out and walked my dog, I got packages sent off, I have put washing on, I have put makeup on, I've sat down to film this video. Like, there's so many things that I've done despite feeling like I just want to curl up in a ball and hide away from the world. And it's also useful once in a while to remind yourself just how far you've come in comparison, because we can kind of get wrapped up in a little bubble. It's just important to remind yourself of your progress. Number 3. This is something that I've really been putting into practice recently, and that is when these predictions arise. I don't like to get annoyed at anxiety. Like I talked about with the kind of acceptance thing, I found that being annoyed and being angry at anxiety just doesn't help it. My approach to anxiety is to thank it for warning me about whatever it is that it wants to warn me about, stupid things usually, and say, thank you for warning me, but it's okay, I think I've got this. I kind of like to see it as like, this is so weird, like a scared little rabbit, you know, when their like ears are back and their eyes are like, oh. That's what I like to envision anxiety as, is this scared, shaking little rabbit that I need to like stroke and tell them that it's gonna be okay and that I've got this, because like they're worried for me. Does that make sense? Does that sound really silly? I don't know. So basically, let me tell you an example of this. So the other day I was driving to my psychiatrist, and I overthink everything. I pre-plan everything. I have to know like where bathrooms are in restaurants before I go to them in case I go the wrong way. I have to know that there's going to be a parking space where I go. So I was driving to my psychiatrist and I stayed at my boyfriend Sam's. So I was coming from a different route. I know it, like I've literally driven on those roads since learning to drive. And I had this thought on the way, and I was thinking, okay, so which way am I going to go when I get there? Okay, so you're going to take this right, this left, like. And then I caught myself and I was like, why are you even overthinking this? Anxiety, scared little bunny. Okay, like thanks for bringing this to my attention, but I actually think I've got this. Like I actually do know these roads and I don't need to know in advance in my head where I'm going, because I'll just be on autopilot as soon as I get there and I'll know. Does anyone else get that? Like where they have to plan things. So I think it's really important when these situations arise to just stop the prediction. Like, so my prediction was I'm not going to know which way to go, which was a ridiculous prediction. Of course I knew where to go, but my anxiety just convinces me of these things. So I was really proud of myself. I was like, okay, well done. Thank anxiety for warning you, but saying, you know, I think I've got it from here. Number 4, which is linked on to this whole things of prediction, is a tip to help you with seeing just how irrational your predictions can be. So what I find helpful is to write down, to just do a week. You don't have to do it every week. You can just pick a week to do it, or a few days, to write down on one side predictions and on one side the outcome. So like write down your predictions, however silly they may be. So mine are usually like, if I don't get this train, I'm gonna die. Obviously doesn't happen. Or if I don't get this train, I'll miss this meeting and then the brand won't want to work with me and then my career is going to be over. Like I just catastrophize these situations in my head. So by writing down the predictions and writing down the actual outcomes, 9 times out of 10 the outcome is not going to match what your prediction is. And even if the outcome was bad and what you predicted, often I find these are learning experiences. For example, so one of my really bad fears is missing a flight. So I will always turn up like 3 hours beforehand. I get major anxiety around timings of like transport and stuff like that. And when I was flying to Bali last year, I was going with my friend Kate, so I thought, great, like I don't really like flying by myself. Having someone with me always helps me so much. We were coming from different parts. She was coming from North London, I was coming from Southampton to, I think it was Gatwick. So it was like a morning flight. I left at like 4 AM so I could, you know, get there and have enough time, because I drove, parked my car, etc. The Gatwick Express, I think, was cancelled on that day, and Kate had left late anyway, and so she got in a cab, and of course there was traffic and she didn't make the flight. Now that was one of my anxieties that had come true. However, I survived it. I survived the flight, and in actual fact so we were with these 2 other Canadian girls. I met on the other side Laura, one of the girls, which really helped me as well, because if I'd arrived, bearing in mind that Kate had planned this whole trip, I was literally just going along. She hadn't told me, like, until I then asked her in the Dubai stopover, like, where am I going? Like, who's giving me a lift? Like, what do I do? But it was fine. I met Laura, and then we waited for the other girl, Megan, and then we went to our first villa, and then Kate came like the day after. But yeah, it was all fine in the end. So even if your predictions do come true, it all works out. Number 5, question the validity of your thoughts. So this is talking about, you know, these predictions that we make, like, Maddie, are you really gonna die if you don't get on this train? Definitely not. And Maddie, do you really need to know exactly where you're going en route to your psychiatrist? No, you don't need to know everything in advance. It's so important to challenge these thoughts, because I feel like with anxiety they can be embedded in our brains, and literally me, I just go my whole day with these things in my head. I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, shit, okay, I should know this, I need to do this, and I just get myself into an absolute state. And it's so important to take a step back and question whether they're actually things worth worrying about, and whether these outcomes are actually valid, because usually they're very, very irrational predictions. You know, you've just got to think to yourself, what is the worst that could happen? And even if that does happen, you are fully prepared to deal with it. Like, you will be able to deal with if something goes wrong. It's important to ask yourself, so why am I anxious about this? And then just keep asking the questions until you get to the root cause of it. And often you can really, like, debunk all of these irrational fears in your head. Number 6, something I found that helps my anxiety, and this is a bit of a, what's the word, hit or miss topic for me, is planning things. So I work for myself, and one of my biggest issues is that I don't have someone telling me this is the work you need to do on this day. I know roughly in a week like what I need to do, but I still find it very hard. I've got all these free days and I could do anything, and I'm just like, well, how do I pick what to do on each day? This tip is to plan things in brackets loosely, because when I talk about planning things, I know that for me, time is an issue linked to anxiety, and then the whole judgment things come into play. If I don't get something done at a specific time that I've said I'm going to do it, then I'll beat myself up for it. So I've kind of had to strike a balance between loosely coming up with the things that I want to do every day. So I split them into work and home, and I prioritize the work ones, which is hard when you're at home and you want to do the washing up, but it's like you can't, you've got work to be doing. And then I just go about doing the best I can, and I've learned to really, really whittle down my to-do list, because often I give myself too much to do, and then I'm literally setting myself up for a failure, because I know when I write this list I'm never going to be able to do these things. I don't know where I got the idea that my to-do list needs to be really, really long, and that everyone else in this world can complete a really, really long to-do list. I mean, to be honest, some people probably can. Basically, planning things, it does help me, because then I know what I have to do, and then I know, like, one of my anxieties is like forgetting to do something, then I know I haven't missed things out. Sometimes I like to stick to a strict schedule. Sometimes that helps me. If I'm in London, I'm more likely to be able to do that if I like schedule meetings, but when I'm at home, I just give myself like a things to do in an order but no times to them. Number 7. Okay, so now we're on to some tips to do with breathing and muscle relaxation, etc. Something really interesting that my psychiatrist said to me is that there have been studies done that show that oxygen actually increases anxiety. So when all of these people are telling you to take deep breaths for anxiety, they're actually not really helping. One technique that he taught me, I don't know if I can do it on camera. The first time he made me do it in our session, I couldn't keep a straight face, but it's called the hummingbird technique, and it's basically where you take a sharp breath in and then you release really slowly and you hum as you release. So it's like but like a really long period of time. So like short breath in, long breath out, and that is apparently the best way to calm yourself down as opposed to just like standard deep breathing. Progressive muscle relaxation is also really good for me, and stretching as well. Stretching makes me feel so good, especially I've been doing like these neck and shoulder exercises recently because I have like a lot of tension up here and I've been getting headaches. And also, yeah, like clenching your muscles up like progressively, going through your whole body, or just all at once, clenching and releasing is really helpful for when you're feeling anxious. And meditation, I always say this one, I know it's not for everyone, but I do, and I wish I was being paid to promote this, but one of you guys like a few years ago showed me this amazing app, Insight Timer, which has like meditations on there for everything, anxiety, depression, all of that, that you can access for free. So sometimes when I'm feeling anxious, I'll just take like 5-10 minutes out to do a meditation. Sometimes it calms me down, sometimes it doesn't. It's just, you know, hit and miss. These are all like literally all of these are techniques that you can use, so you just try them out and see which ones help you and which ones don't. I won't be offended if they don't help you. Okay, number 8. This is one of the most important ones, and that is change your environment. I find I get myself into a flap usually at home. I'll sit there and I'll overthink things, and then things will go wrong. Like today, like I was trying to take the bins out, the bin ripped, and then I like tripped over things. And so I took myself off to walk Lola and to post some packages, because that was one of my anxieties today, was that I was going to miss the deadline to return these packages. So I thought, Maddie, just literally leave your house and go and do it. So I went and did that, and I walked Lola, which wasn't the most relaxing thing either, because she is an anxious dog and she doesn't like loud bangs, and there was a loud bang as soon as we got to the park. Nonetheless, I had like maybe 5 minutes in the walk that I was able to do my mindfulness that I try and do on my dog walks. I find just changing your environment to go on a walk, or even going into a different room, or going out and seeing your friend, just takes your mind off things. If you feel you don't have time to go on a walk or whatever, this is when like meditation I feel comes in really, really handy, because you can just take yourself off into a room and meditate. Like literally, even if you're at school, go to the toilet, put your headphones in and do a little meditation session to calm down. Okay, number 9 I think we are on to, and that is managing your expectations. So this is like obviously a huge one for me. Like I said, I have in my head like this huge to-do list every single day that I have to whittle down, and I have such huge expectations for myself, career-wise, socially, personally, like with my appearance, all round as a human being. So it's important to remember that you can't be perfect all the time. Literally no one is perfect, and even the people that you look up to, that you think, oh, they've got it down, like they do everything and they're amazing, they don't. But I remember Ariana Grande saying that it had been last year the worst year of her life in her personal life, but the best year of her life career-wise. And that's what you need to remember, like even celebrities, everything is not perfect for them. I will never get to the end of my never-ending to-do list, and I just need to accept the fact that not everything I do is perfect. I'm not going to be able to be on top of this list, because things are always gonna arise, and that is okay. I'm honestly really, really trying to disempower this judge in my mind, and to question as well, like, why is it that I have to be on top of things? Is it because if I do things perfectly and I do things really well, I deserve love? Like, why don't I deserve love if I do everything to the best of my ability? I do. Like, I do. That's just my thinking. If you do have this thinking as well, there's always kind of links back to your childhood where these perfectionistic qualities have kind of formed. My psychiatrist said something really interesting actually, and that was, we can achieve as much as we want, but if our expectations aren't managed, our achievements will never be enough. It's never going to be enough. Like, where is the cutoff line for what you want to have achieved? Like, I feel like if you think like I do, you're never, like literally never in your whole life going to be satisfied. And instead of chasing those things, you need to just change how you think about it. And now we are on to our final point, and this is what I like to do to really ground myself when I feel like I'm really kind of withdrawn and only thinking about myself and like really in my head, and that is to think about the world on a bigger scale. Think about how bizarre life is, like how weird it is that we live on this random planet in a solar system. There are however many other planets and solar systems and whatever out there. We've created this civilization. We have things like the monarchy, we have celebrity culture, and it's just so bizarre that we just get so wrapped up in going about our day-to-day lives. I just always get into these really like deep thoughts in my head at how weird it is that I could just die tomorrow, or the universe could explode in a few days and then there would just be nothing. Like, what actually is there when you die? I don't know. And you know, a lot of people like to live by the philosophy that they could die today, so they just make every day count. I'm trying to get there. Then I have like guilt that I haven't done anything noteworthy in my day, and then I just get really annoyed. But yeah, I think if there was like aliens or like someone watching me go about my day-to-day life, they would be like, why is she getting herself into such a state over these small things? And that's what they are, but anxiety makes them seem huge. Like, it hinders me from doing so many things, and it also makes me overthink these really simple tasks and makes me think that they're the end of the world when they're not. And I just really like to think like that, like think, why am I wasting my time on this earth worrying about things like that? Like, yeah, I can't help it because I have a condition. However, I'm literally trying my absolute hardest to combat this, because I don't want to be thinking like this for the rest of my life. We just go about our life and no one thinks it's bizarre that there's like giant balls of fire in the sky, and there's things like tides, and there's like amazing like rainforests and everything in our world, and it's just so like, I don't know, like it actually gets a bit much for me sometimes. I'm a bit like, whoa, like whoa, the world. But it is so important. With anxiety, you get so wrapped up in yourself and thinking about yourself and worrying about these things, to think about other things and to pull yourself out of that mindset and just think like, what am I doing? Like, why am I wasting my time worrying about these silly things when, you know, I could be planning adventures with my friends and like making memories. When I think like this, it makes me think about what really matters in life and what life is about. Like, it's super deep, but like finding your purpose, spending time with friends and family. Like, life is not here for us to worry about things. It's about, you know, going through these things, letting them make us a stronger person, but leaving it there in the past and just trying to grow as human beings and do whatever it is that we're supposed to do. But yeah, whenever I find myself like comparing myself to people on Instagram or worrying that I don't have the latest fashion trends, I just try and think about the bigger picture and think, really, these things do not matter in your life, and just, yeah, try and focus on what matters the most. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on the matter of anxiety. I really hope these tips have helped you. It's really helped me to speak through them with you. I definitely feel a lot better than I did at the beginning of this video. Try and use these techniques as much as you can in your day-to-day life, but then again, if you don't beat yourself up about it, because then you can get into this overthinking and judging yourself that you're not using your techniques enough, literally, and it's just one big like anxiety circle. But I really wish you all the best, and I'm always here if you want to talk about anything, and I will see you in my next video on Thursday at 5 p.m. Goodbye.